Case 1. Juan A. Rivera Jr. was arrested in Illinois in 1992 for the murder of 11-year-old Holly Staker, a crime that shocked the community. In 1993, he was convicted and sent to prison, even though there was no physical proof tying him to the crime. The case leaned on a confession taken after long hours of police questioning, a confession Juan said was forced and false. He was first sentenced to death, later changed to life in prison, and his future vanished while the world outside moved on. Before we proceed, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more powerful true stories coming up. This is where the story tightens, because the truth was still waiting to speak. Juan A. Rivera Jr. spent almost 20 years locked away for a crime he did not commit. In 2011, new DNA tests were finally reviewed and the results were clear. The DNA did not belong to Juan. It belonged to another man already in prison for a similar crime. The court threw out Juan's conviction and he walked free after losing his youth, his time, and his peace. This case shows how fast justice can fail when pressure replaces care, and how long it can take for the truth to be heard. Case 2. David C. Cam was a former Indiana state trooper whose life changed in September 2000 when his wife and 2 young children were found dead in their home. He said he was innocent from the start, but in 2002 he was convicted of the murders, even though the case relied on weak claims and disputed lab findings. The verdict shocked many, yet David was sent to prison while serious questions about the proof were brushed aside. The pressure was high, the stakes were life-ending, and one man was left fighting a system that had already decided his fate. David Cam did not stop fighting. His conviction was overturned, but he was tried again in 2005 and once more found guilty. Years later, the truth finally broke through. In 2013, after a third trial, a jury cleared him of all charges when the evidence failed to hold up and another suspect's role became clear. David walked free after losing years of his life, proving how easy it is for a name to be blamed and how hard it can be to get justice back once it is taken away. Case 3. Glynn Ray Simmons was arrested in Oklahoma in 1975 for the murder of a woman named Carolyn Sue Rogers. He said he was innocent from the very start, but in 1976 he was convicted and sentenced to death. The case depended on weak witness claims, while proof that could help him was kept hidden. His sentence was later changed to life in prison, and year after year passed while he stayed locked away. This is where the weight of the story grows, because the truth was still being ignored. Glynn Ray Simmons spent almost 48 years in prison for a crime he did not commit, making him one of the longest-held innocent people in U.S. history. In 2023, a judge finally threw out his conviction after it was proven that key information was never shared with his lawyers. In 2024, the court officially declared him innocent. Glynn walked free as an old man after losing nearly his entire adult life, showing how silence and mistakes can steal decades that can never be returned. Before we proceed to the next case, please support my channel by liking this video and subscribing. This kind gesture from you would help my channel grow. Thank you very much. Case 4. Anthony Charles Graves was wrongfully arrested in Texas in 1992, accused of participating in a murder he did not commit. He was just 26 years old and maintained his innocence from the start, but the evidence against him was weak and circumstantial. In 1994, he was convicted and sentenced to death, spending years on death row while his claims of innocence were ignored. Please subscribe to this channel now so you don't miss more powerful true stories coming up. Every day in prison stole more of his life, yet he never gave up hope. Anthony Charles Graves spent 18 years in prison before the truth finally came to light. In 2010, new evidence proved he had no role in the crime, and the Texas court officially declared him innocent. He walked free, having survived nearly 2 decades under the constant shadow of death. His case is a powerful reminder of how quickly a legal system can fail, and how much courage it takes to survive when the world believes you are guilty. Case 5. Robert Dubois was arrested in Florida in 1983 for the murder of a woman named Deborah Ann Green. He said he was innocent from the start, but the case against him relied heavily on questionable testimony and weak evidence. In 1985, he was convicted and sentenced to death, spending decades on death row while he insisted he did not commit the crime. Please subscribe to this channel now so you don't miss more powerful true stories coming up. Every day in prison stole more of his life, yet he never gave up hope. Robert Dubois spent nearly 37 years in prison before DNA testing finally proved his innocence. In 2020, the Florida court overturned his conviction and declared him free. Walking out of prison as an older man, Robert regained his life after decades lost to a system that failed him. His story highlights how fragile justice can be and how long it can take for the truth to be recognized.
Case 6. Stephen Avery was a man from Wisconsin who spent 18 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. In 1985, he was wrongfully convicted of sexual assault and attempted murder based on flawed evidence and mistaken identification. He fought tirelessly to prove his innocence, but the legal system kept him behind bars. Every day in prison was time stolen from a man who had done nothing wrong, yet he refused to give up hope. Stephen Avery was finally exonerated in 2003 after DNA testing proved he was not responsible for the crime. He walked free, regaining his life after nearly 2 decades lost. His case became a landmark example of how wrongful convictions can happen and how persistence, combined with science, can finally reveal the truth. Case 7. The Central Park Five were 5 teenage boys, Antron McCrae, Kevin Richardson, Yusuf Salam, Raymond Santana, and Corey Wise, arrested in New York City in 1989 for the assault of a jogger in Central Park. The boys said they were innocent, but after long police interrogations, they gave statements that were later shown to be false. In 1990, they were convicted and sent to prison, even though there was no physical evidence linking them to the crime. Every day in prison was time stolen from a man who had done nothing wrong, yet he refused to give up hope. The Central Park Five were finally exonerated in 2003 after DNA testing proved he was not responsible for the crime. They walked free, regaining their life after nearly 2 decades lost. His case became a landmark example of how wrongful convictions can happen and how persistence, combined with science, can finally reveal the truth. Case 8. Peter Sullivan was wrongfully convicted in 1981 in Rhode Island for the murder of a young woman named Carolyn Walsh. He maintained his innocence, but the case against him relied heavily on eyewitness statements and circumstantial evidence. In 1982, he was sentenced to prison, spending years behind bars while his claims of innocence were ignored. Every year he spent inside was a year taken from a man who never committed the crime. Peter Sullivan was finally exonerated in 2016 after new evidence and DNA testing proved he was innocent. He walked free after decades lost to a wrongful conviction, showing how the legal system can fail and how persistence and modern science can help restore justice to those who were wrongly punished. Case 9. Dennis Fritz was wrongfully convicted in Oklahoma in 1987 for the murder of Deborah Sue Carter. He insisted from the start that he did not commit the crime, but the case relied on weak witness statements and circumstantial evidence. In 1989, he was sentenced to life in prison, spending years behind bars while his life and freedom were taken away. Every day in prison was time stolen from a man who had done nothing wrong, yet he refused to give up hope. Dennis Fritz was finally exonerated in 1995 after DNA testing proved he was innocent and another man was responsible for the crime. He walked free after 6 years in prison. Dennis regained the life that had been stolen from him. His story shows how quickly innocent people can be convicted and how important it is to fight for the truth. Case 10. John Huffington was wrongfully convicted in Texas in 1986 for a murder he did not commit. Despite maintaining his innocence from the start, the court relied on circumstantial evidence and shaky testimony to convict him. He was sentenced to life in prison, spending decades behind bars while his claims of innocence were ignored. Please subscribe to this channel now so you don't miss more powerful true stories coming up. Each year in prison took away part of a life that had done nothing wrong, yet John never gave up hope. John Huffington was finally exonerated in 2010 after DNA testing and a review of the evidence proved he had no involvement in the crime. He walked free after spending nearly 24 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. His story highlights how easily the justice system can fail and how perseverance and modern evidence can restore freedom to those who were wrongly punished. If you enjoyed watching this crime documentary, please subscribe to my channel. I create and post interesting true crime videos daily on the channel. Thank you for watching.